It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
What is going on, YouTube? Michael J. Crawford, the anti-checker here. Barely awake, barely functioning, but here. It is good to see you all, even if I am just so stupid tired. Dr. Alex just got out of Alita. Now, people have been telling me that Alita has been good. What did you think, Doctor? Bird of Prey was first, putting his comment on 40 minutes before the live stream even got started. Thank you, Bird of Prey. And actually, Bird of Prey, and I know Thomas is upset because Bird of Prey stole the first slot from him. However, because of that, the news ticker has been updated because Bird of Prey actually needed to leave a comment to let me know that he had sent me a news update. So thank you for that. Meanwhile, Thomas does want to see the new number 8. So let's bring up the bird.
Anal na trach, was betod, doch hiel dienle.
Ariel natris oris bazi bedhead duchel dementa. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
You know, my favorite part of that is just Bird when you go, yeah, I'm not so. That's so very nice. Luke says, Anti-Tracker live stream name proposal. Give me a clever name. I'm lazy. It's been a rough day. That would make a great name for this live stream. Thank you. Peter says, good evening. Gotta get pizza from the oven. All right, cool. Alex says, no spoilers, but it was very good, but desperately in need of a sequel/resolution. So it didn't end. And that's actually a problem in movies these days. They tend to try to set up for a franchise. Bird of Prey says, the news font is too big. All right, let me fix that. I was just... XSplit had a weird problem when I fired it up, Bird of Prey. None of the text was working until I restarted it, and so I don't know why that is. So, in fact, let's do this. We'll bring it down just a hair. See, the problem is that I added another super chat, so we need to squeeze that in. There we go. All right. So that's too bad. I think that movies, particularly first outings of a franchise, absolutely must tell a complete story, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Think about this. If in 1977 that Star Wars movie never got a sequel, it would still be considered a classic movie. It's a very good, very complete movie. If the first movie in the Star Wars franchise had been Empire, people would have been pissed off because it's like, you showed me half a movie, right? Luke says I call it TV show syndrome. That's not a bad way to put it, but yeah, because they're absolutely banking on the idea that this movie is going to be a franchise, right? And so now I don't know how good Alita is. I know its box office is okay, but not great. But I also haven't checked out, and I know Robert Rodriguez directed this film, and one interesting thing about excuse me, hiccups. One interesting thing about Robert Rodriguez is that he almost always comes in under budget. So let's take a look at Alita Battle Angel. Actually, it's a pretty high budget. It has not even made its production budget back. Is made worldwide a total of 137 million. It has a production budget of 170 million, which means it probably needs to make close to $400 million to break even. And so that means that there ain't going to be another one. Will the Anti-Trekker show get a sequel? Yes. It's called the Anti-Trekker's Dead, So Now Talk to Me show. I don't know. So what's happening is Discovery still tap dancing on the grave of Star Trek. Absolutely. It's funny because a lot of people said this. The first couple of episodes of season 2 of Discovery did look like they were trying to improve things, but yeah, man, it's tap dancing on the grave of Star Trek while naked and urinating. So yeah, Hector says unless China saves China, it would have to set a new record in China to make it worth it for them to even consider a sequel, because $170 million budget and less than that in box office, I don't know that China can save it. Why did you cancel the Lore Reloaded pre-show? You know which Uber I want. Did I can't? Well, you know, that's funny because I don't even know when Lore streams nowadays. So I haven't had. I don't know if he has even a regular schedule, or if he just streams whenever the hell he feels like streaming. I genuinely don't know. So it's hard to do a pre-show when I, don't know when he streamed. But actually, what you forget, Thomas, Lore Reloaded was the Anti-Trekker pre-show. Remember? In the meantime, yes, I know which Uber chat you want.
I now pronounce you man and turd. You may now kiss.
Joshua, what are you doing?
Nothing! I'm definitely not making you kiss Law. I repeat, I am not making you kiss Law. I'm definitely not. Hello, unfortunately there's not going to be a part 4. Dad just fixed the computer and he promises not to destroy it again as long as I don't do another one of those, so there's going to be no part 4. Wait, hold on, I just got a text message. Please do these videos, Part 4 is very anticipated. Nope, I quit.
Get him.
Sing it! Sing it! Sing it!
There we go. Oh man, I love that. So Luke says, Antrick, actually you're into budget extension to enhance the CGI. That may well be, but it's still 170 is too much for a movie like that. I mean, I get it was a special effects intense film, but unless you have a huge demand for it, it's going to be hard for them to recoup that. I posted my rebuttal to your Balance of Terror spiel last night on both Discord and your forum. I just brought it up. I have it right in front of me. I got to ask you, though, Darren, your picture on the website on antitracker.com, is that you or is that because it's funny because I'm so used to seeing your crazy-faced icon on YouTube. It's like, wait, who's that? Alex says, he with James Cameron behind it, I doubt we'll ever get a resolution. Probably not. That's the problem. The Dancing Doctor. Okay. I meant polish the CGI. Sorry, insert foreigner joke. No, Luke, I understood exactly what you meant. No need to make fun of the fact that you're French based on that. We make fun of the fact that you're French because that makes you an a-hole. I haven't seen Lore stream for a while. I have not either, so I don't know if he streams regularly right now or not. So I genuinely don't know. Dr. Alex says, Lore streams freely. Oh, man. You don't follow him anymore? Well, I still subscribe to Lore's channel, but no, I very rarely, I'll be honest with you, the only live stream I watch regularly is Bird of Prey. Occasionally, I'll watch a Nerdrotic stream if it happens to come on at a time that I can pay attention to it. I have only watched like one Doomcock stream. I've watched one or two Mecha streams. But I'm not, it's just a matter of time. I generally, because here's the problem. Usually if I'm watching something or listening to something, I'm also editing. And it's very hard to edit if you're paying attention to what's going on in the live stream. That's what I meant. Lore was your pre-show, but you seem to have canceled it. Ah, that's what, okay, gotcha. Well, no, Lore just doesn't want to stream as much, I guess. I don't know why. Maybe I know he seems to get a little sensitive to mean comments, so maybe people were saying mean things to him on the live streams and that was bothering him. I just throwing a guess out there. I don't know. Letting it all hang out and streams, yes. Is no super chats allowed free? Not sure what you mean there, Hector. No one wants that image. Of Lore letting it all hang out. Well, you're the one that suggested it. Today was the first time I noticed the little building hotel on the mountain and the beach scene. What? Bird of Prey? What are you talking about? The first time I noticed a little building / hotel on the mountain in the beach scene. Oh, you talking about in the super chat? Or are you talking about somewhere else? Because I'm lost. Spartan Jeremy says, "Hail, Anti-Trigger, permission to come aboard." Of course, Spartan, you are always welcome, as is everyone, as long as they are not dicks. We already have our maximum allotted amount of dicks because we have Luke, who is French. And Luke, speaking of which, throws a couple of euros in. Thank you so much, my friend. Says 2 obols to read previous 2 comments. All right. Let me go back, Luke. Let's see. Well, I read those comments. He got the budget to extension to enhance the CG. I meant polish the CG, insert foreigner joke. However, here's the funny thing about that, is that enhancing the CG and polishing the CG mean the same thing. So it's perfectly fine. In the meantime, though, you want numero 11. Speaking of... Oh, so here's the pre-show right here.
Sir, we are being hailed. On screen. What is your problem?
I am Lore.
Do you need help?
I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Lore Reloaded.
Let me guess, their rubber band broke, right?
I make YouTube go.
Sing it! Peter says, was that me? I'd have to go back and look at the original source material because I can never tell which one's which. But yeah, there are obviously a few people. The most obvious, of course, is Foley without the shirt, and then, of course, Miles with the wrench. But yes. And that is you without the beard? Okay, it's weird seeing you without the beard, Darren. Why'd you lose the beard? Alita is over-sexualized and problematic with an ideal body, say some journalists. Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't give a genuine opinion, but it doesn't look like it's over-sexualized. At least from the trailers, it doesn't look like there's much of a romance or love story to it. So perhaps one of you that's seen it can fill me in on that. DJ says, flaw in Anti-Trekker's theory of Star Trek. If TNG movies are in the Enterprise and Disco timeline, the First Contact said timeline, then it's stuck in a loop. Well, no, only post First Contact is the break point that we switch timelines. Lord doesn't stream because he ran out of anime Korean pop music to play during the stream. Is that what it was? Okay. Darren says, I don't subscribe to Lore. His videos are too uninformed and ignorant. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but some people love him. Some people don't. Anti-Trekker streams are the only ones I dedicate time to. Thank you, Doctor. That's very kind of you. But he does say occasionally Bird of Prey 5. That's the thing. For those of you that don't watch Bird of Prey 5, it's funny because here's the thing. Bird of Prey, he just, he's lives in a hospital bed. I mean, he can't get out of bed, but he streams from his bed playing this game called City Skylines, but he's just so fun to listen to. And he's got a great personality. So if you get a chance, you really should check out Bird of Prey stream. And he usually only has about a half a dozen to a dozen people there. But come on, guys, you guys should hang out with him. He is a lot of fun and he is good people. Please read all comments on the Lore 24-hour live stream. Not going to happen. Lee Christos, if I've seen the Lore apology video, yes. And that's why I put up my response video to it on Monday. And no, I think that he did a very good job with the apology video. I really do. I think it was classy. It was well done. So I have no complaints about it. And he because basically when Lore put out that video the other day, lumping me in about the whole Midnight's Edge thing, I was kind of pissed, and I let him know exactly how I felt about it. I shave, grow the beard when I go to war. No, actually, I fluctuate. I tend to go beardless in summer. Okay. At first, I thought that said, no, actually, I flatulate. I was like, what does that have to do with your beard? Nope, only for the John Batiste one. Not sure what that was about. Someone must have said something to you. But yeah. There is a love story, but nothing beyond kissing, so I call BS. Yeah, I would tend to as well, just looking at the trailers. It does not look overly sexualized or anything like that. Lore Reloaded reads Memory Alpha. Stop it, guys. I'm not going to be picking on Lore Reloaded throughout this stream. He does use Memory Alpha, but he also uses other sources. At least, that's what he says. There's a love story in Alita between her and the young man you see in the trailer. It's an innocent type of love, though, well written. The movie does the source material justice. Well, I've never seen the source material. Was it a manga or an anime? But I've never seen that. But it just looks interesting. I just didn't think it looked compelling. Like, I wasn't like, ooh, I got to go see that. But it looks like, that's something I'd watch when I got nothing to do. I like hanging out with Bird of Prey when I can. Yeah, you should. You absolutely should. Everybody here should on Bird of Prey stream. Damn it, I thought it was a bit quiet on the Dr. Reads the Doctor one. How can I force it to notify? If the notifications don't go out, about the only thing you could do is delete the video and re-upload it. And actually what you could do is make it private and then make it public again. See if notifications go out. If they don't, then I would delete it and re-upload it. I'm so far behind. This is actually funny. The anime is far more upfront with blood and sex, so they kept it rather PC for the movie, I guess. So American of them. Well, you know, we are Americans. If you don't subscribe to Bird of Prey 5, you will get physical therapy. Yeah, let me let you guys know something. Physical therapy for Bird of Prey is not something you want. That's code. And if you get a full physical therapy session from Bird of Prey, that will be the last thing that you ever experience. Mars is in the house. Says, my favorite streamers are David the Good and Mr. Metotker, though neither covers sci-fi. By the way, did you check out Isaac Arthur? I did. He's got some interesting stuff. I haven't listened to a ton of his stuff, but I listened to a couple of his videos. Very well-researched and well-done channel. I wish my channel was as polished as his is. Mr. Miles says, I want to give you $100 every month. And so thank you, Mr. Miles. But his last comment was, read my last comment. So there you go. Can you let Mrs. Anti-Tracker know that about the Dr. Reed's video, YouTube failing to notify? You know what? Actually, I think Joshua, I think I saw him watching your video the other day, unless he was watching the first one. But, yeah, I'll let her know. Maybe. I don't know. If Lore read Memory Alpha's videos would be more accurate. Stop it. He does read Memory Alpha, but he reads other sources as well. Peter says, time you disappeared, DJ Odyssey. Yep, DJ Odyssey's days are numbered at this point. I was kind of pissed. Yeah, 2-hour deconstruction of a 6-minute video hinted at that. Yeah, I know. For those of you that were here when I did that, yes. But what happened was, so Saturday night I did that massive deconstruction of Lore's video, and then I did make that unlisted because I didn't want to be unfair to him. But then on Sunday, I reached out to Lore and let him know exactly how I felt in no uncertain terms. Yes, Lore uses other sources than Memory Alpha, such as Memory Beta. You guys, stop it. What about Memory Gamma or Delta? I don't think there's such a thing. Let's see. It's a manga with 3 or 4 animated stories, I do believe. Okay, wasn't sure. Lore's videos are Bantapudu. I did not know that. Thomas says I always try. Yeah, you're usually there, Thomas. And so, yeah. And I know I've seen Luke there. I've seen Dr. Alex. I've seen a few of you there. But, you know, Bird of Prey, we need to get that boy popular because I'll tell you, Bird of Prey is just such a fun personality. I would love to see his streams having the kind of numbers that Nerdrotic does, you know, because Nerdrotic usually gets like 500 plus people on his streams, which is awesome. And Nerdrotic deserves that audience because he's really good at live streaming, much better than me. And so I would love to see Bird of Prey get those kind of numbers. I protest. Lore doesn't read Memory Alpha. He's the one who writes the articles. Oh, okay, Luke, thank you. I did not realize that. And Dr. Alex says, ooh, thank you, Anti-Tracker. You're welcome. Although, if Mrs. Anti-Tracker is paying too much attention to your videos, then I will, in fact, block you. Raise the Star Trek shills. Yes. Star Trek force fields ready for teleporting. Isaac Arthur's awesome, guys. Yeah, you should check out Isaac Arthur. He's a futurist. If you're into that kind of thing, like he loves Isaac Asimov, and Arthur C. Clarke, which is where he gets that name. I watch Anti-Tracker, The Quartering, and a few WoW channels. I've seen The Quartering a couple of times. He seems like a pretty cool guy, but and I don't watch any WoW channels because I don't play it anymore. But yeah, Thomas Potts says Mr. Miles $200. Are you offering to buy Mr. Miles, or are you paying him, or not sure what you're doing there? Amanda teleported from Sarek's ship in the stupid episode. They actually said teleport. Yes. Well, they actually have comm badges, so what else is new? I mean, come on. So let me see. Man, I'm way behind. Let's see. I got your notification for the Dr. Reads. Well, there you go. There's one at least. The website hasn't sent out email for the stream yet. Well, you know, I blame Bird of Prey. After all, he is the genius behind the website. Bird of Prey says, pretty sure I liked it, but he's not 100% sure. My alternate is Richard. Does that count as being a dick? Only partially. You're not French, so it's, you know, you really need to be French. Eric says, I like your and Mecha Random's live streams. You two will respond to more than super chats, unlike Dictor Van Tipjar. Hey, first of all, I am the tip jar, not Doomcock. But thank you. I appreciate that. And that's my style. I like talking to you guys. That's why I'm here. And so, but I also don't do like subjects for my live streams, which is probably why my live streams are not particularly popular. But to me, live streams are just a time for us to hang out. Who is Bird of Prey, says Mr. Miles. Bird of Prey is the last person you will ever see. I'm here. Leslie Neal is an actress in my dreams. Neal should have his own series. Jar Jar Binks is the best character of Star Wars. Cybok is a good guy. Feel the burn. Good to see you, Alex, as always. Peter is subbed to Bird of Prey. Excellent. You all should. Can I have a wrench? You have one. I am in no way holding a gun to Anti-Tricker's back right now. That is absolutely true. Please check Discord. There is a memory delta. Is there really? Wow, I had no idea. All right, let's see. Thomas, what'd you do? Memory Delta Wiki. Welcome to Memory Delta, a community of fan authors writing stories set in the Star Trek galaxy. So it's fan fiction on Memory Delta. That's cool. I didn't know that. He's a futurist. Does love classic sci-fi, or is he a future hater racist? No, he likes classic sci-fi. Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, and he likes talking about what's coming as far as future tech and stuff like that. The website isn't designed to send out real-time notifications of live streams. Well, we need to fix that, Bird. Get on it. I shouldn't give you orders like that because you might be here. Tip jar, did somebody say Trek Yards? No, I am the tip jar, not Trek Yards. Admiral Broco throws 10 of his fake Canadian dollars in there. Thank you so much, Admiral. Says, great video yesterday. Well, thank you. Sorry I haven't been around lately. I was busy trying to figure out why Marvel would cast a very far-left crazy lady to play one of the most overpowerful characters no one really wants. Well, here's the thing, and you know, you saw my video, so you know my general opinion as far as the political side of it. I generally don't care for Brie Larson, right, as an actress. I just don't. She doesn't work for me. I don't think she's particularly attractive. I don't think that she has enough range, and I really hate the vocal fry thing. For those of you that don't know, vocal fry is when particularly women speak like this all the time, and I hate it. I cannot stand it. And now they have her doing that in the movie. That annoys the crap out of me. That being said, I don't think that her politics are a factor at all, because here's the thing. With the exceptions of Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr., as far as I know, everybody in the entire cast is crazy left. So Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr. are the only ones I know that are not. And so that's neither here nor there. It's just, but the fact that she's out there being so public and speaking about it, that's annoying. Thomas says, Doomcock missed a super chat. Oh my goodness. But of course he gets so many that I could almost understand that. He gets super chats like I get regular chats, which I'm insanely jealous of, because I would be retired if I got super chats like that. But hey, that's just the difference between me and the Doomcock. Maybe if maybe I should start doing live streams as Dr. Doom, and I could put on a voice changer, and then I could compete with Doomcock. I should do that. Email just came. Well, there you go. John says, I love the interaction in your live streams. A lot of channels usually won't read your comments unless it's a super chat. Well, I know a lot of channels do that, and I try to read as many as I can. I know I miss comments from time to time because, like, right now I'm way behind. But yeah, that's just me. This time is not about, I'm going to talk today about Star Trek Discovery and why it sucks, or I'm going to talk today about Brie Larson's latest escapades. No, when I do a live stream, it's, hey, let's hang out with the subs. right? Let's hang out with my friends here, and we'll talk about whatever the hell's on our mind. And I think that that's just more fun for us. Not just me, but for you, because that's how I would want to see a live stream, as somebody that is actually paying attention to me. Because the whole beauty of this live stream format is the fact that while I am presenting, I can read what you're saying about it. Now, if I don't react to your comments, what is the point of a live stream? Why not just record a video and put it up, right? Except, of course, to get super chats. So I guess there's that. Invisible Wrench. Oh yeah. So let me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna miss a few comments here because I gotta get caught up. Vulcan Fry. That is totally logical. Oh man, that would be horrible. Only the cool kids get the blue wrench, Wesley. Yes, that's true. You can't talk about a woman's vocal fry. That's sexist, yo. Well, sorry, I'm going to. Samuel Elliott does vocal fry, and people love it. Well, some people, very few, some people can pull it off. But I think that, and I'm sorry, I know this sounds sexist, but whatever, I don't care, I'm just being me. I think that a woman that talks like that sounds idiotic. I truly do. Because you're speaking in a voice that is not your voice. Like, listen to freaking, Kim Kardashian, or Brie Larson, or anybody else that's doing the vocal fry, and they sound like they're trying to sound sexy, but they end up sounding stupid. That's what I get from vocal fry. David the Good is a mad gardener who also sings, and Mr. Mector makes fun of insane weirdos on the internet. Well, both that could definitely be fun. I could see that. Need a mask. Well, I'm working on it. I know that, guys, thank you for your patience. I'm trying to get the anti-house back together, but the craziness of that 3-week trip to Portland has taken so much out of me, and so I appreciate you guys putting up with me, because that's been a difficult, I got to fess up. This has been one of the most difficult times of my life, because seeing my mother-in-law's house the way that it was just hit me like a sack of bricks. Dealing with the estate, seeing the stress that it caused on the family, I mean, all that, it was incredibly difficult. And I'll tell you, and this is the honest truth, there are only 2 things that brought me through, well, 3 things, I should say. 3 things that brought me through it. Number one, is the fact that certain herbal substances are legal in Oregon, and that helped me with some of the physical pain and anxiety. Number 2, Mrs. Antitrekker is the greatest woman on the planet, and very supportive and very kind. And even though I was there to support her, she kept me going. And number 3 is you guys. Being able to, as crappy as the live streams were during that trip, being able to hang out with you guys a little bit, it really helped me, keep one foot in sanity. And I mean that. I mean, it is, when you see the kind of things that we saw, and we have to deal with the things that we had to deal with, it is mind-blowing to see that somebody lived in the conditions that my mother-in-law was in, and it's so sad and so depressing, and you guys really helped me make it through it. So I truly appreciate it. Bad Antitrekker. Mrs. Antitrekker should have been number 1, not number 2. Well, I didn't put them in ranking order. I was just listing the 3 factors. Okay. Obviously, Mrs. Antitrekker was the number 1 factor. You guys were the number 2 factor, and the herbal remedies were the number 3 factor. Although the herbal remedies were probably the most enjoyable factor. Antitrekker loves number 2 more than number 1. Well, that is true, Bird, because gotta be me. Right? Gotta get it? Gotta be me. Okay. So, real quick, now I'm not going to be able to see the chat for just a minute, so I'm warning you guys, I'm not going to see the chat for a minute, so I'm going to miss your chat in the next couple of minutes if you put a chat. Although Eric says, Dr. Antitrekker, the future ruler of space, master of quantum. That would be really cool. But I'm going to read a little article from our very good friend, Darren. So this is Darren posting on antitrekker.com. If you're not already, go to antitrekker.com, register, hang out with us. It's basically the best way if you need to get information to me. The best way to do it is to send a message through antitrekker.com. I only check Discord once in a great while. Antitrekker.com is the best way to contact me. I'm not lying, okay? And Wesley, yes, I'm going to miss that chat, just so you know. And I'm sorry, Mr. Mouse, I did not watch any Stargate while I was on the trip. So, but yes, your Stargate plaque will be coming. And yes, Darren, I did see there were 2 posts. All right, so here we go. During tonight's stream, of course that means last night, Antitrekker and I got a tad heated, but it was all in good fun. Yes, absolutely. We know how to have an argument without hating each other. And may have seemed a bit more heated than it actually was. I have an emotional connection with Enterprise that a lot of folks don't have because of Paramount's intention of making the NX-01 more submarine-like than other Starfleet ships, including the Defiant. Part of my problem with engaging him in his live streams is that I can't adequately get my point across in the chat. Like I said, he can monologue, but I have to communicate with the equivalent of bumper stickers. That is true. That's a downside to the chat thing, but I think you did a very good job, Darren. I truly do. The intention of the show was that the prequel set in the same continuity as that of Kirk, Shatner, Picard, Sisko, and Janeway. Yes, they made continuity mistakes, but that doesn't change the intent. Accusing any Star Trek show of continuity and canon violations is like handing out speeding tickets at the Indy 500. That is a great analogy, Darren. That is awesome. I love that. And if that is the criteria anybody goes with, then one might as well put each season of each show in its own timeline. I personally would put Enterprise in its own timeline for this reason alone. Father Cool says agreed, and then you go into part 2. Wow, part 2 is a big one. All right, here we go. Let's look at what exactly Spock says in Balance of Terror line by line and see if this fits with the events depicted in Star Trek Enterprise. Spock is asked to brief the crew and audience as to the history of the Romulan neutral zone. Spock states that the Earth-Romulan War took place over a century ago. Enterprise takes place from 2151 to 2155, in which there is no actual Earth-Romulan War depicted. And Earth-Romulan War takes place between 2156 and 2160. Star Trek, now, we don't know exactly when the Earth-Romulan War took place, but that's a reasonable assumption based on, he says, over a century ago, so we know that it was at least 100 years ago, less than 200 years ago. Since it was a first season episode of TOS, therefore ST Enterprise does not violate the established timeline by not depicting the Earth-Romulan War, since 2266 minus 2156 equals 110 years, whereas Spock says, over a century ago. Concede that point to you. Spock then gives the history report of the Earth-Romulan War, where he describes the kind of conflict it was. He calls the weapons of that era primitive, which is a highly subjective term, particularly for Spock. But I don't think anyone would argue that the phase cannons and photonic torpedoes of Enterprise era are less sophisticated than what Kirk and company had on the 1701. Guidance systems and phaser output undoubtedly improved, and we can see, as we can see from In a Mirror Darkly, the TOS era Defiant was way more powerful than the ship, the Terran Empire version of the NX class. Assuming that the Terran NX class was exactly the same as the regular universe, you're right. That obviously systems had improved. However, and I'm sure we're going to get into it here, but one of my gripes there is that Spock was very specific about 2 forms of technology. 1, that the weapons were atomic in nature, and 2, that there was no ship-to-ship visual communication. Now, we'll see. I'm sure you're going to get into that. Let me see here. Spock says the war was fought with primitive atomic weapons. He doesn't say specifically which side used them. Well, I would dare say that if the war was fought with atomic weapons, that would mean both sides of the war. If I said World War II was fought with conventional weapons up until the point in which we dropped atomic bombs on Japan, well, that's true. All sides use conventional weapons. All right, so if that's the way I see it. As far as common speech and the way that Spock was presenting it, it seems pretty clear that on this long road, both sides were using atomic weapons of some kind. But let's just assume for the sake of argument he meant both sides. What is a photonic torpedo? It is a warhead that uses antimatter. When matter and antimatter collide, they manually annihilate each other and give off a lot of energy. This is precisely what atomic fusion is. Actually, it's atomic fission, but good enough. A fusion bomb forces two atoms together and they mutually annihilate one another and give off a tremendous amount of energy and no waste. This differs from atomic fission, in which atoms are split, giving off less energy and producing atomic waste. Therefore, the photonic torpedo could be said to be an atomic weapon, albeit using fictional materials instead of plutonium and hydrogen and other real-life nuclear material. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I see what you're saying, but in Star Trek, it seems that they are clearly differentiate between nuclear power and antimatter power. I see where you're saying, and I think that's a good out from a writing perspective. By the way, this is very well written, but I still think that because they've talked about nuclear weapons. In fact, think when the Romulan used the self-destruct nuke against the Enterprise, and Spock referred to it as an atomic weapon of some kind. So as opposed to, well, it was like one of our photon torpedoes, except using hydrogen. It wasn't anything like that. Ian says, discussing Balance of Terror, wonderful episode. Yes, we're talking about the history of it, though, a little bit, and how it relates to Enterprise. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, Spartan. I think you're right, and I don't know. I'm not a physicist, but Alex is. I don't believe nuclear fusion annihilates the atoms. What I understand is for example, if you take two hydrogen atoms, you can fuse them together into a single helium atom, and the excess particles that you do not need is released in the form of energy. That's my understanding of how nuclear fusion works. As opposed to nuclear fission is where you break the atomic bond in an atom and it releases energy as fission. But fission, the fusion actually does have atomic waste unless you have a way of minimizing that, and that's where things like helium-3 and stuff like that come into play. Now, I'm not an expert on that. I'm not saying all that is 100% true. That's just my take on it. I could be completely wrong, and I would definitely be willing to be corrected on any of that. Well, that's what we told us. Atomic fusion was a naval submarine school. Well, but keep in mind, Darren, at the time that you were in naval submarine school, fusion was theoretical. Anyway, let's continue on. Let's see. Spock then goes on to say that the ships of the conflict allowed no quarter. This is a military nautical term for not taking prisoners. That I knew. In the days before submarines, for example, combat ships were expected to take an enemy ship's crew prisoner, the ones who are still alive, that is, before sinking an enemy vessel. Looking at the NX-01, we could see that they have a brig with 2 cells in it. The ship itself was certainly too small to take on a crew of another ship its size, so it does in fact line up what Spock says in Balance of Terror. Except that I see what you're saying there, Darren, but when he says that, and I would ask anybody that's seen the episode, I would challenge them in that it seems to me like when Spock says the no quarter line, he's referring specifically to the nuclear weapons. Because if I remember correctly, he says primitive atomic weapons that allowed no quarter. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'm trying to remember. I know we watched the scene last night, but it seems like he was referring to the fact that the weapons do not allow you to target the engines or something like that. That the weapons would destroy the ship completely. There was no quarter because you either destroyed the enemy ship or the enemy ship destroyed you. There was nothing else. But let's move on. Spock then says, nor was there even ship-to-ship visual communication. Yes, this is a big stickler for me. Now, what does communication mean? Simply put, communication means the imparting or interchange of thoughts, opinions, or information as defined by sources like dictionary.com. This means, simply put, nobody from one side or the other conflict communicated visually with the other side. But Spock also said the Allies didn't have visual communication. He said no human, Romulan, or ally ever saw the other. It's not a statement that Starfleet didn't have visual communication systems, only that no such communication took place during the conflict. Whether it was the result of incompatible technology or the Romulans simply not allowing it to take place is irrelevant to what's said. Spock is simply stating that it did not happen. Indeed, Kirk and company were the first to get a look at a Romulan officially because they hacked the Romulan intruder's internal communication system in Balance of Terror. On Stent, not sure what that is, no Starfleet personnel saw a Romulan... oh, Star Trek Enterprise. Sorry, I didn't see... is there a colon in there? I didn't see it. No Starfleet personnel saw a Romulan, only the audience did. At the end of this Enterprise episode... At the Enterprise episode, I'm not sure what that is. Arner? The multiracial task force that is destroyed, and the Marauder still has no idea that it was a Romulan drone ship. Oh, fair enough. I'm not saying that they violated that piece of canon, that somebody saw a Romulan. It's just that the way... I mean, that was just kind of very convenient that nobody saw it. Going back, second season of Enterprise, the Romulan ships that appeared in the episode Minefield also relied on radio communication and communicate with the NX-01, further preserving what Spock states in Balance of Terror. Except that, like I said, with the Enterprise, in the NX-01 was perfectly able to do visual communications with the Vulcans or the Andorians, and Spock said, human, Romulan, or ally. He didn't just say human and Romulan. So I maintain that Enterprise did not violate the information Spock conveys on the Romulans' Balance of Terror. Enterprise did fudge canon a bit overall in the aforementioned episode Minefield, in which Romulan ships were identified and seen using cloaking devices. It's very clear in Balance of Terror that Kirk and company were the first to see a ship do that, as a brand new idea at the time. Manny Koto has stated that he wanted to clean that up. I know you're a big fan of Manny Koto. And make those Romulans a now gone faction of the temporal Cold War. But since he never got a chance, they remain an anomaly in the show. Koto also planned to retcon the Suliban cloaking devices as well. It's a pity he never got to do it, thanks to Les Moonves. Whew. There you go. Wow, Darren, that was a very well thought out and eloquent answer. My hat's off to you for that. And Marlena is in the house. Good to see you, Marlena, as always. They hacked the cameraman on the ship. Yes. Thank you for reading. No, not a problem, Darren, because we had a good discussion of it. And unfortunately, it's one of those we're going to probably have to agree to disagree to a point. However, here's the thing, and this is where a lot of people misunderstand. This is how you have a debate. Me and Darren obviously disagree. We went at it a little bit last night. And this was his response today, but we don't hate each other for it, right? Obviously, even though Darren feels the Enterprise's canon violations can be minimized and it still belongs in prime canon, I tend to think that Enterprise fits better in an alternate timeline that leads up to Discovery. But regardless, Darren and I are still friends. But Mr. Miles hates us both for it. I have taken Dublin on me civilization game. Should I punish them? Of course you should. You absolutely should nuke the Irish because they're Irish. Tiki of Doom Eves does have a tendency to try and shun people he thinks are too mean. Well, I don't try to shun people that I think are mean. I'll just call them out and say they're mean. Darren writes a complete essay. Anti-Trekkers agree to disagree. Well, I went through some of the points as I was reading it. I only hate lore. You don't hate lore, Darren. Opinions are like a-holes. Everyone has one. Some just stink. Okay. It is canon, and it continues from the events of First Contact. Well, here's the other thing, Peter. And this is why I like the idea of my First Contact timeline that I proposed in my video a while back and we talked about last night. And that is, in Enterprise, they make... Enterprise, I understand why. It's because of the production order of these shows. But Enterprise is the only Star Trek series to make direct references back to the events of First Contact. And so, and when I say the events of First Contact, I specifically mean the Borg events in First Contact, not just that Zephyr and Cochrane made First Contact. So that's that's where I think that it does make sense that in the first contact timeline it leads to Enterprise. The technology is more advanced than it should be, but that's okay because that leads us to Discovery, which in turn leads us to the Kelvin timeline. Michael Burnham is the best captain. Prove me wrong. Yeah, she's not a captain. Proven. We disagree with Andy Trekker. Time to get the pitchforks and torches. Only having fun. That's all right, Josh. I wouldn't be surprised. Or that Cochrane was a raving alky or party man. That's true. That was in there too. Wrong. 7 mentions first contact on the relativity. But does she? I don't remember that. So you'll have to, Thomas, get me the episode name so I can check that out. If you watch the community on the Enterprise pilot, they split the difference in many aspects of canon, respecting as much as they could. I respect that they respected canon even when they violated it. I could get behind that statement. I know it sounds a little silly, but yes. And that's why I don't hate on Enterprise the way I hate on Discovery. When Discovery violates canon, they do it with glee as they twist the knife in the history of Trek. Whereas with Enterprise, they did it because they were like, oh, we need to get out of this corner, but we're going to have to break canon to do it, you know. Also refers back to the Mirror Universe 2-parter using the same cast to redo the first contact. Yeah, I did like that. That was funny. Only one word, quantum. Yes. Best captain is the mother effing Cisco. All right, Mars, we know where you stand. But not the events of Enterprise. But does she mention Zephyrin, Cochrane, and the Borg? I don't remember that. I really don't. It could be that she did, and I just don't. But I remember it clearly from Enterprise because, yeah, they in Regeneration, which was a great episode, you know, they show Archer talking specifically about the events of First Contact in some detail. Wasn't First Contact referenced the next week on DS9 when they got the busted up Defiant back? I don't remember that either. I guess I'll have to do a search for it. You fools! Burnham is a lady, therefore she is better than a captain. She interrupts them freely and shuts down their mansplaining. Well, that's true, Starch. She does do that. Discovery is just blatant in your face about things. Yes. And they do it on purpose, clearly. That's what pisses me off more than any other part of it, is the fact that they knowingly and intentionally are breaking canon. I don't know, they kept Enterprise perfectly in line with the original series much of the time, but would seem silly. They split the difference, and I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Don't get me wrong. And DS9 just mentioned a recent Borg attack. Right, but they weren't talking about Zephyrin Cochrane thinking that Borg were coming from the future to take over the universe. Has there been a Mirror Con in the books or comics? Not that I'm aware, but that would be a very interesting idea. Mirror Con would be like a superhero. One of these days, you're going to have to do a video about all the things you like about Enterprise. That would be a long-ass video, Darren. If Enterprise acknowledged the existence of the Romulan War from years past, that would be far better. But would Earth have made it out as far into space with primitive ships to fight Romulans? See, that's another problem. And that's where, when I created my timeline, my idea was that in the original timeline, man focused on developing warp drive, and when the Vulcans discovered Cochrane's experiment, the Vulcans shared their warp drive technology, which made man able to reach out into space much faster than before. So the ships that they were fighting the Romulan War in were barely more advanced than Zephyrin Cochrane's little modified missile. However, then we in the Enterprise timeline, Zephyrin Cochrane is running around talking about the crazy robots from the future that are trying to take over and enslave humanity. And so the Vulcans decide not to share their warp drive information, which slows us down. But in turn, we start developing other technologies, such as weapons and view screens and stuff, much faster. And so then that of course leads us to Discovery and the Kelvinverse, where all tech is way more advanced except for warp drive, and warp drive is actually less advanced from what we see. All right, so yes, I'm going to. So now that we have the episode is relativity. All right, bear with me here. See, it's season 5. All right, let me get, and that was from Voyager, right? So give me just a minute. I'm not looking at the chat for a minute. I'm not looking at the chat for a minute. All right, so let's see. Which episode was... No, I can't spell worth a dang. Hold on. Thomas, where is your comment? There it is. L. And this is from Star Trek Voyager. And search. Alright, so I now have the script for the episode Relativity in front of me. Let's see. It's bigger than I expected, says Janeway. Should we make contact by now? Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see. And where were what room were they? Okay, so Thomas, help me out here. Where were they when this exchange took place? What room were they in? Because it breaks down each scene by where they were. Bigger than I expected. That is what she said. That is absolutely what she said, which is just kind of funny. That was, you know, the first line I happened to notice. 7 was running a simulation. Let's see. So there's 11 mentions of the word Borg in the episode. So let's go. All right. So yeah, here we go. Let's see. A causality loop in which, okay, so they're talking about time travel paradoxes. So Duquesne, who I'm not sure who that is, says, let's see how much you've assimilated. The Dolly paradox. 7 says, also known as the melting clock effect. It refers to a temporal fissure which slows the passage of time to a gradual halt. Duquesne says, the Pogo paradox. And 7 says, a causality loop in which interference to prevent an event actually triggers the same event. And Duquesne says, can you give me an example? And 7 says, the Borg once traveled back in time to stop Zephyr and Cochrane from breaking the warp barrier. They succeeded, but that in turn led to the Starship Enterprise to intervene. They assisted Cochrane with the flight the Borg were trying to prevent. Causal loop complete. And then Duquesne says, so in a way the Federation owes its existence to the Borg. And 7 says, you're welcome. Okay. So there we go. So you're quite correct. It was mentioned in that episode. However, one thing that I think is interesting is that now 7 knows about that, but nobody else does. And I would argue, and you tell me if you think this is reasonable, Darren and the rest, so as far as my my alternate timelines and all that theory. So what if 7 got the information from the collective that when they sent a sphere back in time to prevent first contact, and the Enterprise went after it, and obviously it didn't change history? Because they would have no way of knowing that they were, first of all, and I don't know why she said they were successful, because they had no way of knowing that. Because the Borg sphere in the past was not connected to the collective. They established that in the movie, and was utterly destroyed. So there's no way that 7 could actually know that they were successful. However, that's interesting. Entering the episode The Year of Hell is implied that 7 knows a lot more about first contact than the rest of the Voyager crew. Okay. They wouldn't know as the timeline changed around the man trigger, or Back to the Future, or what's her name sleeping through it. Yes. You're speculating with off-screen headcanon, that's not you. Well, I'm just trying to think of how that works. That's the thing, is that you have, how could Seven, because keep in mind, Seven didn't get this from the Federation computers, she just got this from memory. How could she know that the Borg were successful? They began transmitting a signal to the Borg before they ejected the deflector. That's true, but they had already failed at prevent, or actually no, they hadn't completed their mission yet, because first contact hadn't been attempted yet, or the warp flight hadn't been attempted yet. Enterprise fixes that issue with the message sent in regeneration. Except that the message, they decoded that message, and it was simply coordinates. It was just telling the Borg, hey, go to Earth. It was stated also in Enterprise that the Borg got off a signal when Archer asked where it was sent to. Their reference is not getting there for at least 200 years. Yes, but then you run into... but then, you see, this is weird with the Borg. Because, on the one hand, basically looking at the Borg history, they attacked the Romulan neutral zone, but they didn't know about Starfleet. Now, here's something that I'm going to actually, I know this will be shocking to some of you guys, but I'm going to agree with one of Lore's theories, and I think this is a decent one, which is that the Borg knew of the Federation, but they just didn't think they were worthy of assimilation until a Federation starship all of a sudden showed up where it shouldn't have been, when Q sent them across. And triggered the Mocking commander, the last Orville, the commander of the one that faked his death, is the Klingon captain from the Voyagers episode when they found the Klingons. Oh, I did not catch that. Very cool. And probs Alfie Woodard and Cochrane. Yes, they sent a message to Ryan Johnson. His head got bigger and rounder. It would have been better if the drone sent a message. Stay away from Earth. Yeah, that would make sense. Do you think that when they remastered the TOS episode The Trouble with Tribbles, they should have included Cisco and company in the background to preserve continuity? That would have been fun. That would have been really cool had they done that. I think they... But, and this is the thing. So that's where, like, when we get into all these paradoxes and stuff, and that's... The Star Trek... did you notice Bruce Willis on the Orville? Yes, he was the flower. But in Star Trek, they tend to treat time travel as the old mini-worlds theory, which, while I personally think the mini-worlds theory is ludicrous and silly, it makes for a good sci-fi trope. The problem is that Star Trek is also not particularly consistent with its time travel, because sometimes it's the mini-worlds, and sometimes there's only a single timeline, because, like, if we look at City on the Edge of Forever, as soon as the past has changed, all of a sudden, everything in the current time is messed up. And so then they go back and they fix it, and then everything in the current time is back to normal. So, they are quite inconsistent with how time travel works in Trek, which is unfortunate. That moment when you realize Cylons are much better at killing humans than the Borg. Go, toasters, go! Well, remember, the Borg's goal is not to kill humans, but to assimilate. And Trigger, it's also possible the Borg came interested in humanity because of Q. It's been suggested the Borg could be aware of the Q. Yes, that's what I was saying. You're saying because that the Borg could know that Q had an interest in humans, and that's why the Borg were interested in humans? Dax looks so much better in a TOS uniform. Agreed. It's funny because me and Mrs. A-Trigger just rewatched that episode very recently. And yes, she looks much better in the TOS uniform. And by the way, notice that they were all putting on these old uniforms. They all used all the old equipment and all that. And it didn't look stupid. Okay? The idea of including Cisco in the remastered Trials and Tribulations was kind of a funny joke. Well, remember, it would have been Trouble with Tribbles. And I think that they should have. And in fact, they could have redone the bar fight to include a couple of shots of O'Brien and Odo and Worf. I think that that would have been really cool. To just remaster Trouble with Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations and kind of merge them into a singular, like a probably hour-and-a-half episode. That, I think, would be cool. Time travel's used way too much. Agreed. All Trek series going up canon issues, but in the case of Discovery, they intentionally decided to flip Star Trek on its head to satisfy SJWs. Yes, that is the problem. DS9 used the Orb of Time in some episodes for time travel, which is basically magic. It's weird because the timeline wasn't affected whenever they used it. Yes. Well, in the Guardian of Forever, it didn't, seems like it's kind of magic. But then you have many world stuff when anytime they talk about quantum and tachyons and crap. And Captain Redneck is here saying,
"Ooh, Captain Redneck is on the bridge."
And Captain Redneck says, "Don't provoke the Borg." You can't say everything is predetermined. Every decision creates a new multiverse, Anti-Tracker, unless you're saying it's predetermined. I'm not saying it's predetermined. I'm saying, here's what I would say personally, all right, is number one, I agree with the Vulcans of the 22nd century. Time travel is, in fact, impossible. That's point number one. Point number two is there is only one reality. And so there you go. I do not believe in the many worlds theory, and I do not believe that time travel is actually possible. However, both of them make great science fiction. I'm sorry I'm late. That's okay, Darth. We're just hanging out for a little bit. Oh, are you here, Rand? Back in the Discord cage? Okay. Not sure what you mean. They probably have to pay the actors more. Not sure. Oh, because of if they merge the episodes, yes, they would have to give royalties to Avery Brooks and all that. That's probably why they didn't do it. More trouble with Tribbles, yes. And then of course they had more troubles in the animated series. Trials and Tribulations look great. The TOS aesthetics are too old as nonsense. Exactly. And that's what really pisses me off is I cannot stand the fact that the people at CBS seem to think that they have to make it new and shiny and more explodey in order for the kids to watch it. Because you know what? Star Trek has never been about that. Hey, Andy Trigger, what are your thoughts on supporting any Star Trek series, no matter what the issues, just for the sake of keeping Star Trek alive? Well, I'm against that. But that's what, when I talk about Discovery, I call a spade a spade. I love Star Trek and I want Star Trek to keep living, but I don't want Star Trek to keep living as the abomination that is the current iteration of Star Trek Discovery. Instead, I do hope that Star Trek Discovery improves. I do not encourage people to subscribe to CBS All Access. The only reason I subscribe to CBS All Access is so that I can legally watch the show, because I do reviews. And more lens flares. Yes, we need more lens flares. The kids will love it. Star Trek Discovery creators just don't like miniskirts. Yeah, but miniskirts are awesome. And, and Mecha Random a while back did a excellent video on this. Don't worry, Luke. I see your comment. I'm not going to let it go to 3547. An excellent commentary on the fact that those skimpy uniforms and skimpy costumes from the original series were not oppressive and sexist. They were, in fact, liberating. But people don't understand that. So Luke says, attempt number 3,546. I find it unlikely that interstellar faring United Earth would use antimatter-powered ship, but not antimatter torpedoes. Trinity gave birth to nuclear plants. Well, fair, but I'm just saying what if the original in the prime timeline or the original timeline, what if it wasn't antimatter that powered the starships? Maybe they made warp drive with fusion engines. Thought on TOS set in A Mirror Darkly, it was proof that the TOS air tech and ships looked more advanced than the Enterprise. Yes, and they did a good job with it. And that's actually part of the reason that I get pissed off at the producers of Discovery. Because not only did they recreate the original look and feel of Star Trek, but they made it look like it could kick all sorts of ass over all the stuff that was in the Enterprise show. Many worlds or timeline change would be a fine explanation for Discovery, but they won't do it. No, they will not. Star Trek brain dead on life support. Yes. The Orville has a very 80s, 90s TNG look, and yet no one minds. Exactly. Orville looks like it could have been just the 8th season of TNG. If canon was 100% accurate, what would people complain about? Oh, acting, lighting, visual effects, all the other stuff. Top 5 Trek time travel episodes and worst. That's... I'd have to have them all listed in front of me to really think about it. But I will say that as far as time travel episodes, probably my favorite is, it's low-hanging fruit, but I got to say it, City on the Edge Forever is just an incredibly good episode. And it's one of the most dramatic, serious endings to a Star Trek episode ever, when Kirk just finishes the episode by saying, "Let's get the hell out of here." You really got the feeling that what happened affected Kirk. As far as worst, probably, at least from original series, I would say Assignment Earth. I don't particularly care for the whole Gary Seven thing. I thought it was cheese. I thought you only had CBS All Access to torture us with Star Trek Discovery reaction streams. Exactly, but yes, but that's it. The how and why did their shuttles, Amtrak, and then how and why did their shuttles lack any form of warp? Are you talking about in TOS, or are you talking about in Enterprise? Because, I mean, on TOS, the shuttles actually did have warp, they just didn't mention it. But keep in mind that the Enterprise was on its way to Talos 4, and Kirk on a shuttle was keeping up with them. But the shuttle has limited fuel in comparison to a starship, and so the shuttle was past the point of safe return by the time they took it aboard. Have you seen the sets for the Axanar USS Ares Bridge? It's a perfect fusion of TOS and Enterprise bridges. Yes, they are beautiful. Brain. What is Brain? I don't know. Discovery is the only Star Trek film series that has not had that did not have a face from the past in the first episode. Yeah, that's true. Hey, don't disparage Terry Garr. She was Gary Seven's secretary. Yes, but that doesn't change the fact that I didn't care for it. CBS AA puts you in Alcoholics Anonymous. It does. Oh, man. Wasn't Gary Seven supposed to lead to a spin-off? Yes, that was, Gene Roddenberry was trying to propose a spin-off series to the network, and the network said, hell no. City on the Edge of Forever only affected Kirk in that one episode. He's never bothered by it again. That is a problem, Captain. And the thing is and that actually, unfortunately, is a symptom of it being produced in the 60s, because television series back then did not, chronological order meant nothing. And so there was very, very little canon or continuity that went over time. And so, yes, it unfortunately, while Kirk was clearly affected by the death of Edith Keeler, it was, by the next episode, it was like, oh yeah, everything's fine. TOS shuttles definitely had warp, says Zachary. Agreed. Shuttlecraft equals warp drive. Shuttle pod equals impulse only. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Darren. And Luke says, I was talking about Enterprise. In TOS, it's very clear they already have warp. They use it for interstellar travel. Yes. But yeah, in Enterprise, I don't know why they don't have warp-capable shuttles. Brian says, me poo, my friend. Terry Garr was so hot. Not my type, but you can have her. Even the Kelvinverse did with Spock Leonard. Even the Kelvinverse did Spock / Leonard. Oh, yeah, Leonard Nimoy, yes. And Trekker, strange as it is, Doctor Who had a quote that sums up how I feel about the Star Trek timeline. My own type of explanation. Is this a timey-wimey thing? Question, do you take a broom and replace the handle, and then later you replace the brush, and you do that over and over again? Is it still the same broom? Answer, no, of course it isn't. Okay. The first episode of Voyager had Quark. Did it? I don't remember that, but it's... Oh, yeah, you're right. I haven't seen that in a long time. It's tech giving a blessing. Okay. Not sure what you mean. Mr. Miles says that's the Trek timeline. I can kind of see that. I wonder if Gary 7 was actually Section 31. That would make sense. Yes, Gary 7 is Section 31. Cancel Discovery, bring back Enterprise for a 5th season by Manny Koto. That would be cool, except that they would have to say, it's like, you know what they could do is they could call it Enterprise 20 years later or something and kind of pick up Ash, do the Romulan War thing or something. Kirk had a bad month in the first season of TOS. He lost Edith Keeler, and then the next week he lost his brother Sam. Yeah, that was rough. I liked the time ship episode of Voyager. It showed us how shitey things can get when mixing with time, and that's one of the biggest reasons why time travel and temporal influence should be kept out. I think they do time travel way too much overall in Trek, but yeah. And let's see. Peter, did Voyager use a face in the past in the first episode? Yeah, we already said that Captain Redneck Quark was in the first episode of Voyager. Love the latest Orville. I thought it was actually a really good take on homophobia. I really do. Anti-Tracker, in the Star Trek timeline is the broom. Temporal Cold Wars, First Contact, and so on is no longer the same. Broom. Yeah, I get it, but yeah. Quark was a face from the present, not the past. Same with Picard and Emissary. Well, I think what they mean, Captain Redneck, is someone from a prior series, not necessarily from the distant past. No one in Enterprise. Actually, not true. In the first episode of Enterprise, they showed Zefram Cochrane. So they did actually do it in Enterprise as well. I like how Star Trek continues to show Kirk breaking over events leading to TMP. I haven't watched that, so I don't know the details of it. I'm not a big fan of Star Trek fan films. The only Star Trek fan film I actually really liked is Axanar. Spock was closer to Kirk's brother than his actual brother Sam. Well, except that William Shatner played his brother Sam. Well, his brother Sam's dead body. And Darren says what I just said. Zefram Cochrane was in the first episode of Enterprise. Yes. Anti-Trigger, new theory. Section 31 was written into the Starfleet Charter by time travelers from the future, so Section 31 could be used to repair the timeline as the Federation sees fit from the future. Yeah, that could make sense. Shut up, phone. Oh, it's Mr. Miles again, jerk. Well, I don't get any pat on the back for how I explained the changes in canon. Unsubbing. Well, you're always unsubbing. Give me some snowflake music or I'm unsubbing twice. All right, so with so many Trek series in canon in play, how can any new series be successful unless taking place in the future? Well, that's a big problem with Discovery, and I agree. I think that a new series, if you're going to do a new Trek series, first of all, if you want to do it that's in a time frame other than post-Voyager, you can, but it's really stupid to run it right up against another series. So, for example, Discovery takes place about 10 years before the original series. What Discovery should have done was, if you want it to be a prequel to the original series, fine, set it halfway in between Enterprise and the original series. All right? So that would make more sense. That gives you plenty of room, and you don't have to worry about running into stuff with characters from the original series. But the problem is that they still do things like Cestus 3 and Gorn and the comm badges and all that crap. And they would have done that regardless because they're assholes. But the next time frame that where I think would be some very fertile ground for a Star Trek series is in between Star Trek 6 and yesterday's Enterprise, meaning the Enterprise C. So somewhere in that range. I love the movie era ship designs. I would love to see that expanded upon, and I think that they felt like ships still, as opposed to floating hotels like they did in TNG. And so I think that there's some fertile ground there for a series. The only other time frame that I would offer would be post-Voyager, but my biggest problem with that is that the technology is so dang advanced that the technology just becomes magic. I mean, look at Voyager itself. I mean, how many different ways can they freaking reconfigure the deflector dish to solve their problems? Redneck says, the huge problem today with making any new Trek series. Is the overly complicated shared ownership of CBS and Paramount, the new Picard series, going to suck? Well, first of all, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, but I think that you're also on the right track there. It's not the complicated shared ownership, because it really isn't as complicated as people make it out to be. CBS owns Trek. They license an alternate universe Trek to Paramount. That's pretty much the whole deal. CBS does, in fact, own the original series. They own Next Gen. They own Deep Space Nine. They own all of Trek up except for the Kelvinverse. Okay? Now, where I know the Midnight's Edge video kind of postulates the idea that Discovery, because Bad Robot is involved in the production, is a Kelvinverse thing and therefore Paramount, but that doesn't make a lot of sense because it's on CBS All Access. It's not on a Paramount network. So I kind of disagree. I think that Bad Robot is a production house. Bad Robot doesn't own Trek. Paramount owns the Kelvinverse, not Bad Robot. So but that's just my opinion, and you know, unless they come out and actually say it, we won't know 100%. That being said, CBS is the problem. CBS doesn't know how to produce Star Trek. Why? Because they never did. Up until Discovery, Star Trek was being produced by Desilu and by Paramount. And so then, now CBS Studios were involved in Deep Space Nine and on, but it was still created by Paramount. And so Paramount was still the overarching authority in Trek, and CBS just was kind of a production company. Unfortunately, now CBS owns it lock, stock, and barrel, and they don't know how the hell to produce a Star Trek series. Peter says best time travel is Star Trek 4 and Yesterday's Enterprise. Yesterday's Enterprise was definitely a good one. I really liked Yesterday's Enterprise as far as time travel stories. For Next Gen, that's probably my favorite one. I honestly think Hollywood needs to end their nigh 20-year obsession with prequels. Ever since Lucas' prequel trilogy, Hollywood has had prequel mania. Yeah, and it never works. That's the thing. Prequels so rarely work. And I really don't understand why they are so obsessed with it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You need to download this City Skylines asset. And then Bird of Prey throws a link out there. I'll check it out here. Ha ha ha! I love it. Yes, I will put that in front of my house when I get to building my own district there. Just keep the turtlenecks and belts. I can watch a show with characters just wearing a maroon jacket with no shirt or belt. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that if you create great stories, people will watch it. Discovery is not about great stories. It's about forcing social justice down our throats where there's no injustice. And that's the problem. If you want to force social justice and social change, you need to find, you know, it's like when I watch interviews with Sonequa Martin Green talking about how difficult it's been for her because as a woman of color, she can't get a decent role in Hollywood. I want to punch my screen when she says that kind of thing. Because it's like, you just got off of working on The Walking Dead. And then you go to head up a Star Trek series. Oh yeah, there's no work for women of color. You know, and it's like, and of course, now, and you have people like Brie Larson talking about how women are just, oh, women are so oppressed and everything. Brie Larson is being paid more than any actor has been paid for an opening film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's being paid more than Robert Downey Jr. made for Iron Man, more than Benedict Cumberbatch made for Doctor Strange, more than any other actor made for their first film. So don't give me the crap that, oh, it's so difficult being a woman. Yeah, I'm so done with that kind of crap. I'm going to reconfigure the deflector dish to wipe Star Trek Discovery off the airways. Hey, it'll work. I have Janeway's help. If you can do that, Captain Redneck, that would be awesome. Luke says, Anti-Trekker, the secret. 1, keep the Trek formula. Agreed. 2, find an original theme. Agreed. 3, gather proper social messages. Agreed. 4, plan out an outline that recycles, sets props, and saves up money for CG and real actors. Again, agreed. And that's how, you know, and here's the thing. Yeah, Iron Man, 500,000. Captain Marvel, 15 million. Yeah. because women are so discriminated against that we got to pay her 30 times what Robert Downey Jr. made. UPN, Nerd Voyager. Remember a UPN? Yes, I do. Which women don't have color? So, well, that's something that, yeah, me and Mrs. Antrecker joked about that for years, because whenever somebody call, you know, like if she's a, you know, Mrs. Antrecker is a woman of color, I say, yeah, because I'm a man of clear. Whatever. But yeah, to pay Bree $15 million is just stupid. Remember, people, he only skips your comments if he doesn't. Oh, I meant to skip that comment. All right, so with that, I am going to wrap it up because I got to get ready for work here in a few minutes. But I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me because you guys are freaking awesome. Darren says, I liked your Expanse-esque idea for a new Star Trek series. Remind me a bit of the last season of DS9. Yeah, I think that would work. I really think that would be an awesome series. But unfortunately, CBS won't hire me. If CBS hired me to be vice president of the Star Trek brand, we could have some real Star Trek. But no, it's not gonna be, you know, whatever. I wish Burnham's parents had taken that advice. Wrap it up. That's that bad. You look ill. You should call off and stay live. I would love to, but remember, I just got off that 3.5-week trip to Oregon. I have no time off this year. It's going to be a rough year for me, because unless I either win the lottery or my YouTube channel grows to the point where I can do this full time, I will not be able to take a day off until 2020. That sucks.
Sing it! Sing it! Sing it! My, this here Anakin guy. Sing it! Maybe Vader someday later, now he's just a small fry. Sing it! And left his home and kissed his mama goodbye. Sing it! Saying soon I'm gonna be a Jedi. soon I'm gonna be a Jedi. Sing it! Sing it! Sing it! Sing it! How good the boy could be. So we took him there and we told the tale how his mordi-chlorons were off the scale and he might fulfill that prophecy. Sing it! Mordi-chlorons, mordi-chlorons, mordi. Sing it! Chlorons, 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 mordi. Sing it!
Alexa, black